neurologic disorders that are affecting the brain in one direction. We have neurotransmitters that work both directions when it comes to the brain and the microbiome. And then we also have this axis between signaling when it comes to secretions, digestion, absorption, etc. And they're all involved in our food, our microbiota, and our gut. And so we're going to go into a lot of detail about this, but I want you to think about the fact that this is a threefold thing. Mental, metabolic, and gut are all playing a role in our overall well-being. So first, let's start with the insulin resistance part. Part of this you guys have seen before. What is insulin resistance? Insulin, again, is a growth hormone. It is also a hormone that helps us utilize glucose. When we have this picture of the cell, in order for glucose to actually get into the cell, we have to have insulin go into this little receptor site, and it honestly acts like a lock or a key in a lock. Insulin is the key, the lock is this insulin receptor. It opens the door for glucose to get in. This works fine and dandy in a normal person, but not in someone with insulin resistance. When we're insulin resistant, it's exactly that. We're resistant to the effects of insulin, which therefore impairs our ability to get glucose into the cell. The problem is this also happens in the brain, and this is where mental health, cognition, etc. all happen. As you can see down here in the busy slide, is that glucose in an insulin-resistant brain cannot get in. And if you are not following a dietary strategy that makes ketones, you are therefore not providing any fuel for your brain. The brain becomes dysfunctional and you have all kinds of atrophy, etc. This all stems again from type 2 diabetes and insulin resistance, leading to things like Alzheimer's disease. So I put this book on here, Chris Palmer, and I'm going to talk for a minute so you guys get to look at this picture and listen to me. But he's a wonderful psychiatrist who really figured out where mental illness and metabolic disease came to play. I was fortunate enough to sit with him at a table back at a metabolic health conference, and he made an excellent point. He said, we've all looked at depression and anxiety and things, and we've all thought that they were forming because of mental illness or because metabolic disease. People were depressed because they had diabetes. They were depressed because they were obese. They were depressed because they had cardiovascular disease. And he sat back and went, wait a second. What if mental illness is actually a metabolic disease in itself? One of his patients, when this first came about, his anecdote that he had was he had a patient that he was treating for schizophrenia, and those medications are extremely obesogenic, meaning that they were gaining lots and lots and lots of weight. Well, he decided to treat the weight with a ketogenic diet. And as a result, he found this wonderful thing where he was able to decrease medications in people, even as far as schizophrenic patients, by putting them on a ketogenic diet, actually had success in deprescribing medications when it came to mental illness. So if you want a really good read on the association and relationship between mental illness and metabolic disease, Chris Palmer is your guy. He does an amazing job. Again, the prevalence. 7% of us don't have this. 93% of us do. So your chance of developing mental illness, if you don't have it already, is very, very likely. Likely it's going to be your kids, your friends, your family, your loved ones. So now let's talk about the gut-brain connection. And I've done a lot of research over the last week and a half on this, and it's been very, very intriguing when it comes to how much our gut impacts our brain. We have this axis that is there. Again, like I said before, our brain impacts things like motility, secretion, nutrient delivery, microbial balance, etc. And our gut impacts our brain with the mental stuff. It impacts the neurotransmitters. Did you know that the gut is the main producer of serotonin, our feel-good hormone? If our gut is dysfunctional and our microbiome is not doing what it's supposed to do, neurotransmitters are not functioning properly, serotonin's not doing what it's supposed to do, and we end up with stress, anxiety, mood disorders, behavior disorders, etc. So we got to focus on this. I know this is a little busy of a slide, but it was so perfect for what I wanted to do here. So up here at the top, you can see factors that affect the gut microbiome. Number one, in my opinion, is your diet. Obviously, all these processed standard American diet foods are a problem, but also addictive substances, medications, particularly things like antibiotics, but also things like antacids, antidepressants can also affect the microbiome, your genetics, your environment that we'll talk about some more, and actually how you were born. A vaginal birth gives you much more balanced probiotic or prebiotic status, microbiome status, than people who were delivered by C-section. So what happens in most of us? We have this imbalanced gut microbiome, which leads to this thing called increased intestinal permeability, which also means leaky gut. And so if you have leaky gut, these microbes, we can also call them poop, we think about our intestinal tract, that's what's in there, are now able to leak into our bloodstream and into other parts of the body that they're not supposed to, this bacterial translocation. So leaky gut's a big part of this too. It's an inflammatory based thing. What's supposed to be happening is tryptophan metabolites, which is where serotonin comes from, small chain fatty acids, immune mediators. They're supposed to be helping us out, and instead they're not doing the things they're supposed to do. So these signals to the brain through a variety of different mechanisms that I'm not going to get into. If you have dysfunction, you're going to have this major depressive disorder, bipolar disorder, and somatic symptom disorder. So also things like ADHD, anxiety, depression, any mental disorder that's out there. So the gut microbiome plays a huge role. So let's talk about what you might be doing that is causing problems. Number one, if you don't need an antibiotic, do not take one. It's that simple. You will obliterate your microbiome. Number two, avoid these processed foods, which include high fructose corn syrup, seed oils, and any of your processed foods and preservatives. Remember what the role of preservatives are. It's to keep bacteria out of your food. Well, if you don't have anything, if you have something that's going into your body that is eliminating bacteria, we're not helping our microbiome. If your water is treated, you want to filter it because the chlorine and the fluoride and the stuff like that is also going to disrupt your microbiome. If you have leaky gut, we need to do what we can to improve inflammation. Alcohol can obviously be a cause of inflammation and leaky gut as well as disruption. Think again, we use alcohol on our hands in order to get the bacteria off. If we add that to our GI tract, we're going to have the same effect on bacteria. And then we also, I hate to say it, during COVID, we really didn't do people a favor. When we became so excessively sterile, we created a lot of immune problems by impacting not only the gut microbiome, but also the skin microbiome. So things that you can do in order to make this better. You want to have a good intake of both soluble and insoluble fiber. Balance does definitely play a role here, but you can get it from foods. There's a list over here. You want to have a variety of different kinds of plants in your diet because they carry different kinds of bacteria to regenerate the microbiome. You want to eat organic if you can, or at least foods that have not been injected with antibiotics. You want to make sure you're doing intermittent fasting, give that gut a break, let it reflourish. You want to be eating fermented foods when you can. And at the very bottom, my favorite is get outside and get a little dirty every now and again. It's really good for your microbiome. So small chain fatty acids, I wanted to come back to because of the fiber. So the number one source of these is actually dietary fibers. There's 3 different kinds of short chain fatty acids. They are amazing. The research coming out on this is just, to me, mind-blowing. And so they're going to help your immune system. They're going to help with your blood-brain barrier permeability, which helps with things like mental illness, anti-inflammatory, again, energy, insulin sensitivity, and glucose tolerance are huge when we're making short-chain fatty acids. And again, remember where those come from. Here's another slide that really just shows the overall impact of short chain fatty acids on pretty much every system in the body. And so again, insulin sensitivity improvement in glycogenesis and fatty acid oxidation. You could go on and on and on. We're going to have better outcomes when it comes to incorporating short chain fatty acids into our diet. So lastly, I wanted to hit on cognition just briefly. If you combine all of these things, which Dr. Bredesen has done in this End of Alzheimer's program, you're going to have some pretty great success as well. He does a keto flex diet, which is very low carb, but very high plant, and also incorporates intermittent fasting. He focuses on things that are going to heal the gut. He focuses on things like sunlight exposure, eliminating processed foods, and optimizing our hormones, which you've all heard me talk about before. So also very, very important for cognitive prevention, as well as improvement if you're already starting down that road. So why does it all matter? I put this slide on here because you guys have seen it in different forms, but if you look at this slide here and we start to talk about where does insulin resistance play a role, it's not just mental health. There's other things that we can do, but when you talk about mental health, they all kind of play a role. I'm going to talk about type 2 diabetes and cholesterol and actually obesity and where this plays a role in our mental health. Pandemic, epidemic, whatever word you want to use. So let's talk type 2 diabetes. Type 2 diabetes Is this a precursor to type 3 diabetes? Absolutely. And some people actually develop type 3 diabetes before they develop type 2 diabetes. So we really want to focus on this. We want to make sure that if we're getting an A1C checked, it's less than 6.5, but really with a goal of less than 5.5. You want to try to catch it earlier by catching your hyperinsulinemia that is probably showing up without hyperglycemia. So if you can, get a fasting insulin with a goal of less than 6. We do not want this insulin resistance to progress to your brain if we can help it. Obesity, and this is a touchy topic. I really contemplated on this, but having done all of this research, it is amazing how much maternal obesity during pregnancy is leading to ADHD, autism, depression, mental health disorders in our kids. And so if you look over here at some of these gestational diseases and whatnot, and where autism in gestation occurs, look at the things that I said versus what they're saying: air pollution, alcohol consumption, hyperglycemia, microbiome dysfunction, obesity, medications, microplastics, pesticides, vitamin D deficiency. I mean, boom, 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 boom. As a mom, there's not one mom on this planet who wouldn't want to prevent their kid from having to suffer from mental disorders. So these are things that you can do and improve. This one's specifically on maternal obesity, and it talks so much about different things like the fetal microbiome, about breast milk and being pro-inflammatory instead of anti-inflammatory, what we can do. Let's get our weight under control before and keep it under control during pregnancy so we can help our kids avoid these things. And then last, if those of you who've seen my call before, you've all seen this, we do focus a lot on cholesterol here with the Feel Great system, which is great because what we really focus on is this triglyceride to HDL ratio. We know this is diabetes, heart disease promoting 100%. But the dogma out there is that overall cholesterol is going to lead to issues with heart disease, and that's just not true. When patients take statins, if they don't need them, some people do, but if patients take statins and artificially lower their cholesterol when they don't need them, guess what we impact? We impact our brains. Our brains are primarily made out of cholesterol. So we don't want to lower cholesterol so much that we have a problem. We just want our cholesterol to be healthy by lowering that triglyceride to HDL ratio. So don't focus on lowering cholesterol, focus on making your cholesterol healthy. So how do we do this? Again, insulin smart, mental health smart eating. We're going to intermittent fast. We're going to do some whole food, low carb eating, and we're going to incorporate the Feel Great system to help that microbiome and that gut work better in order to help your mental health. So if you want to get a hold of me, this is how you do it. InsulinIQ.com is a great place to find me and my team, or Venn Integrative Medicine. So please reach out if there's anything I can do. And hopefully the slides weren't too confusing.
The slides were not too confusing. They were actually really, really, really informative. We have some people with raised hands asking questions, and we will have a Q&A here at the end of the call. And Lindsay will be back for that Q&A, so you can talk to the absolute expert. Lindsay, that was awesome. That was awesome. And, you know, I'll just throw in my 2 cents on the gut-brain connection. This is something that I have studied very, very deeply. And I've actually created a lot of content on the internet about gut health. There are some really, I mean, it is a complicated topic. And Lindsay, you just did a very good job of explaining it briefly and simply in a way that was digestible for everyone. Let me tell you what I have also noticed. You alluded to this, but I've noticed that there is a negative feedback loop that people get into, where they have poor gut health. And because of poor gut health, we know that that contributes to poor mental health. Well, poor mental health doesn't help somebody make good dietary choices. And so they get stuck, and their metabolic health declines, their mental health declines, and those just feed off of one another into like a death spiral. And so the question that I had, and that many others had, was, okay, so if we're in that death spiral, either with our mental health, our metabolic health, or both, how do we pull out of the death spiral? Like, what can you do? Because, you know, I'm stuck, right? And this is why I love what you said. You know, a lot of people, when they think about gut health, they think about topics like probiotics, prebiotics, postbiotics, and frankly, most people don't know what these words mean. In fact, I'll just maybe take 2 minutes and explain what these are. Okay. So probiotics are actually living organisms. Okay. The living bacteria, tiny microscopic bacteria that are living on your skin and specifically in this case in your gut. All right. Prebiotics are the food that those bacteria eat. Okay. So the probiotics, these are the bugs. The prebiotics are the bug food. Okay. And postbiotics are what the bug, what we call this? I don't want to call it the bug poop because it's not the bug poop, but the bugs actually ferment the prebiotics. And prebiotics, another way to say prebiotics is fiber. Okay. So the bugs in our gut will actually ferment the fiber and create something called postbiotics, which are those short chain fatty acids that Lindsay was talking about. Okay. So what does this mean? It means that inside your gut, there are trillions of little tiny bugs that actually have a lot to say about how you're feeling right now. They have a lot to say about whether you have clear skin or you have psoriasis. They have a lot to say about whether you have, lightning mode, as John said it, or you're in the throes of depression. These little bugs living inside your gut may be contributing to type 2 diabetes or other autoimmune things that you're not aware of. Okay. Now, these bugs, you think bugs, ooh, that's gross, that's bad, get them off me. No, 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 no. This is a very complex ecosystem inside of our bodies. Okay. And in a perfect world, when everything is healthy, all these bugs are living together in relative harmony. Yes, there are some snakes and some mosquitoes too, but we need them because if you remove them from the ecosystem, the whole thing could collapse, right? And so, like Lindsay said, what happens is we take some antibiotics, and in some cases, we may kill off some of the species of bacteria with those antibiotics. We eat a bunch of sugar and seed oils, and we don't eat fiber. Our ancestors were eating over 100 grams of fiber every single day. And today, the average American is only getting 12 grams of fiber. Well, if fiber is what this ecosystem needs, we better get enough of it. But because we are fiber deficient, we start losing this diversity, and the ecosystem inside of us starts looking more like this wasteland. So some people might say, okay, well, I've heard that if I have bad gut health, if I have bad mental health, I can take some probiotics, right? I'll sprinkle the probiotics on the problem, and these probiotics will fix my wasteland. So the probiotic, again, is actually a bug. It's a living organism, right? That we're going to try to sprinkle into our gut. Maybe we take some probiotic supplements or whatever, right? And we hope that these guys are just going to go in there and make everything better. But I mean, think about it. If you drop these three jokers into a wasteland, I mean, they might hang out there for a couple of days, but they're likely to be transient. And the reason why is because there's no food in this wasteland. There's not the diversity that they need to colonize and make a thriving life for themselves. And so they're gone. We call them transient. So the question is, how do we get these guys into an environment where they can actually do something? And the key, as Lindsay said it, is the prebiotics. It starts with fiber, not just any type of fiber. I mean, you can't take bananas to the zoo and feed all of the animals bananas because lions don't eat bananas, right? And the same is true with fiber. You can't just, dump Metamucil on this problem and expect it to go away. The diverse ecosystem requires a very diverse array of dietary fiber. And for maximum benefit to one's mental health and metabolic health, the studies have shown, and these are big studies that have been done with thousands of people. The studies have shown that you need roughly 30 different plants in your diet every week. Okay. Now, for some people, they'll get 30 different plants in their diet in a day. For others, they're on the standard American diet. And the problem with the standard American diet when it comes to gut health and metabolic health is that we have no diversity of plants in our diet. All of the plants that are being consumed are pretty much right here, okay? Rice, corn, wheat, potatoes, and soy. That's it. 60% of fiber that is consumed by American adults is rice, corn, wheat, potatoes, and soy. And this is why we're all getting sick. Think of a teenager's diet. Are they eating a lot of plants? No, they're eating a lot of Pop-Tarts. And this is contributing to a damaged gut, and this is contributing to the mental health epidemic, to the IBS, the irritable bowel syndrome epidemic, and the metabolic health crisis. So what do we do to fix this problem? Well, if eating too much, too often of the wrong things that have been stripped of their fiber has contributed to the problem, introducing a little bit of fasting and a little bit of fiber in the diet can make all the difference in the world. And that is what we're doing with this protocol. So if you're new here and you have not yet started the protocol, I want to explain this very carefully. This works fantastically, okay? There is a reason why we're all getting sick. And for the most part, this is not an individual problem. Now, for a long time, I thought this was my problem, that Trent has a broken body or broken willpower. And I was constantly on diets, up and down and up and down in my weight. And if I wasn't on a diet, I was gaining weight. And I just thought I was the problem. Trent, you need to have more willpower. You need to eat less. You need to exercise more. That may be true when one kid is failing the class. But when 90% of American adults are failing the class, it's not an individual problem, it's a systemic problem, okay? And what has happened to the food supply is we have taken natural foods, we've stripped them of all their fiber, and we're only eating the fiber-stripped products, okay? This happens in every single plant with fiber. It gets processed into something that has been stripped of the fiber. This is consistent across every single carbohydrate that exists. There is not an exception. When God or evolution or Mother Nature or whatever you choose to believe in, when it created the carbohydrate, it created fiber to be with it. And if we separate the two, we will get sick. And the big food has separated the two, okay? Even sugar itself in nature always comes packaged in fiber. And when you start removing fiber from everything, you will get a nation full of sick people. And today we're talking a lot about mental health, and other weeks we've talked about irritable bowel syndrome. We always talk about insulin resistance, type 2 diabetes, obesity, right? So one of the keys here is the fiber. But again, you can't just dump Metamucil on it, okay? We need a diverse array of different fibers that can help those bugs in our gut, those probiotics, thrive. They need prebiotic fiber to thrive and to fix our damaged metabolic and gut health, right? So here's what we're doing on this protocol. And, it might sound kind of magical, but there's really no magic about it. I mean, we've got literally hundreds of studies that show how fiber can help somebody dramatically improve their health. And we've got tons of research and data on fasting for helping people solve their problems. And what we're doing is we're just combining the two. So how we do this protocol is essentially like this. Most of us that are doing the protocol, if you take your 3 meals a day, breakfast, lunch, and dinner, most of us are skipping breakfast each day. Now, you can modify this if you must, but it's really easy if you just stick with this. It might be hard for a couple of days. Stick with it. It will work for you, okay? So when you skip breakfast, you save $5, right? But apart from the savings, we're also keeping our insulin levels intentionally low. This helps us regain some insulin sensitivity, and it gives our gut a rest. Everything needs rest. I mean, how do you do when you've had no rest? Not very good, right? Me too. The gut is the same. The gut needs time to rest. Our blood sugar, our cells need time. Our cells actually need time to rest from all the insulin. And when we keep insulin levels low with some intermittent fasting, we regain insulin sensitivity. So while we're fasting, we're actually not starving. We're just burning fat for fuel. We're switching fuel sources. We're still living, but we're living on fat. And we feel great when we're doing that. Now, if that sounds hard for you, if you feel like fasting is difficult, well, don't worry. What we do is we take the $5 that we saved skipping a meal, and we're going to use that to buy some things that will make this really easy and take willpower out of the equation, right? We take the $5 that we saved and we use it to buy some Unimate. Now, the Unimate is used to make fasting easy. When I sip the Unimate, I mean, if anybody here, I mean, there's 300 people on the live Zoom and there's thousands more that are watching it. If you have used this Unimate properly, whether you do it hot or cold is irrelevant, but if you've used it properly and you've sipped it over a long period of time, what does it do to you in terms of fasting? I mean, for me, it makes me completely forget about food. It makes me forget about food. It makes fasting easy. So I keep my insulin levels low. And then when it comes to having a meal, we have a blend, a very specific blend of the best types of fiber for controlling blood sugar, insulin, leptin, HDL. It helps lower triglycerides. It helps. It is and this is not just me talking out of my rear end here. I mean, this is all from the physician's desk reference. Both the Unimate and the Balance, both of these are in the physician's desk reference. They're, as far as I'm aware, and if there's another product that does this, then I'm just not aware of it. It is the only natural, clinically proven alternative to lipid lowering drugs and a lot of the, metformin, a lot of the drugs that are out there. The only natural, clinically proven, and patented alternative listed in the physician's desk reference. I went on this protocol. Not only did it help me, get rid of my love handles, my mental health improved dramatically. I started talking about this on social media. This is actually a buddy of mine, Cody. I talk about Cody a lot. He is a great, great man who I admire and look up to and love working with. Cody and I have worked together for, gosh, back to when I was a teenager. We've been friends. Cody went on the protocol. It completely changed his life, not just physically. Okay. I started to get hundreds and hundreds of messages from strangers all over the world. Hey, man, I just got my results. I had an A1C of an 8.0. Now it's a 5.3. My doctor said I don't have diabetes anymore. I can lose the metformin. Lots of people with diabetes, pre-diabetes, reversing that. Lots of people with gut health problems. I got to scroll and scroll. I've got hundreds of these messages. People with skin health problems like psoriasis sending me messages saying, hey, I just want to say, since you started talking about prebiotics, I did some deep diving into your videos. I watched everything. And now, since applying what I've learned, look at the difference. Blood sugar, all kinds of problems. Now, because this is probably starting to feel a little bit like a commercial to some of you, and I don't mean to make it sound that way, but I really am so convinced that this protocol is a solution for what's wrong with America, with the world now in terms of metabolic health. The manufacturer is so adamant that this will work for anybody that tries it and uses it properly that they will actually let you try it 90 days risk-free. You can use every packet in the box. And when you go and you can prove it with a blood test that you do with your doctor, right? When you do your blood work, if it is not dramatically, measurably better, or for any reason, if you're not fully satisfied, you can just get a refund. Okay. Now I want to get into the live Q&A because that's an important part of this call. I want to bring back Lindsay. But first, I want to ask for just a little favor. Okay. There are 290 people, almost 300 people that are on this call right now. Many of you have not started this protocol. Many of you are skeptical. Many of you might be coming to this call tonight. We're talking a lot about mental health, and you might be like, I'm doing okay mental health wise. I don't know if this is relevant to me. Anything remotely related to insulin resistance, metabolic health, mental health, etc., I feel can be dramatically improved with this protocol. So do me a favor. If you are watching this call and you have been on the protocol, whether you've been on it for a week or a month or a year, if you could just write a note in the chat, maybe one sentence on what it has done for you or anybody in your household. Now, I don't want you to exaggerate, but what are the measurable results that you've experienced since starting the protocol? I would love our guests and our visitors to see some of these and read some of these, and we'll read those, a few of them at least, and then we'll jump into the Q&A. Let me find Lindsay and bring Lindsay back, so I'm ready here. Okay. I am way behind in the chat, so let me. Okay. Lori Davis says more energy. Zoom user says my triglycerides are down from 359 to 178. I'm down 50 pounds. I'm feeling great. Jimmy says I'm 10 months on the protocol, reverse fatty liver and type 2 diabetes. Blood pressure's down, sleep apnea, depression, ED, all gone, down 84 pounds off 7 medications. Incredible, brother. Monica Rose says, my dad reversed his diabetes and my mom lowered her cholesterol to normal all in 3 months. Nori Hendricks, I reversed my type 2 diabetes in 4.5 months with this protocol. Scrolling. More energy. No more restless leg or IBS. No more insomnia. Energy and weight loss. Energized. Relationship with food and hunger have completely changed. My skin tags are going away. Triglycerides down from 250 to 50. My HDL went from 53 up to 122. Way to go. Ubaldo Valdez says, my dad went from 466 triglycerides down to 90 in 1 month without intermittent fasting, just taking balance and Unimate. Alan Kashner says, reversed my type 2 diabetes, got off 6 medications, lost 72 pounds. My wife lost 38 pounds, reversed her kidney disease, stage 3A. Hey, that's crazy. Holy cow. Lori Davis says, my fiance came off his blood pressure medications after being on it for 20 years. Kim O'Brien. I love Kim O'Brien. I love all of you, even many of you who I've never met and don't know. I don't know you these names, right? But I do know Kim. Kim says, I lost 20 pounds, reversed my insulin resistance. Jael Thompson. I started a couple of weeks ago. The balance tastes good and I've lost weight. Hey, I'm happy for you, brother. Or sister. I don't know. JL could be anybody. Marla Jirak. Lowered my blood pressure, cholesterol, improved my A1C, got rid of my inflammation, and PTSD is gone. More energy and clarity too. Karen Bailey. Karen. Maybe Corinne, maybe Karen. Karen, A1C was an 11.5, now a 6.0. Okay, there are 39 more messages that I don't have time to read. So I hope if you were skeptical that you read that. How can all these things be related? How is it possible that one person could be getting benefit from their insomnia and other people with their mental health and other people with their weight or their diabetes? It's because the root cause of all these problems is one and the same. Fix the insulin resistance and fix a myriad of health problems. Okay, if you've got a question, feel free to raise your hand. We will bring you on the line. Ted R., you have had your hand up since the beginning. Are you wanting to ask a question or did that go up by mistake? And just so everybody knows, we'll have to keep the questions concise and brief to get through them. All right, Ted, go ahead.
I've been on here. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir. You had your hand up. Did you have a question?
Oh no, but yes, I did. The question that I had was, doing the actual system. When you have the 16 and 8, do you have to? My understanding, what I heard in the very beginning was, you take your balance before your meal, and I heard you say, well, let me just come back to that because I recall the example that you gave about the apple.
Yeah.
And my question is, in the beginning, I heard that when you do the balance, that you have a hour window to eat.
Okay.
Is that true?
Yeah. Okay. So great question. So Ted's asking, hey, when do I take my balance and how long can I eat before that, before I need another balance if I want to keep eating, right? And so what we would encourage you to do is to have your balance right before your meal. Now, for a while, we were doing 10 to 15 minutes before the meal, but especially for blood sugar control, for best results, have it right before you have your meal. So, I'd mix it up and I would drink it down right before dinner. And ideally, yeah, we want to finish dinner, ideally in 30 minutes. If we
Okay.
go as long as 60 minutes, that's okay. But if this becomes a drag on, run on meal where, 2 hours later, we're still kind of having our dinner, then, the effect of the balance is not going to be quite as great.
Okay. Well,
Yep.
very clear. I mean, to be honest with you, I haven't done it like that often, but I have done that, but I've never asked that question.
Okay. Well, Ted, hey, thanks for being on the call, and we really appreciate it. I hope you have a great experience on the protocol. And if you have other questions, feel free to reach out. I'm going to bring on Zoom user. Zoom user, you've got your hand up with another question. Go ahead, Zoom user. I've invited you to unmute.
I do have a question. I know initially, I'm new to the business and to the product. I've been taking it since about March or so. It's dramatically helped me with my menopausal symptoms. Crazy. Um, but my question is, I noticed that I was told that we should take Unimate while we fast and then a balance before meals. But now I'm seeing that it's changed. What's the science or the indications as to why that change was made?
Yeah, so just to be clear, I mean, we want to have balance before our meals and Unimate when we're not eating. So no change whatsoever there, right? Most people struggle with fasting and snacking. And so they've included a second packet of Unimate. So you get extra Unimate. And we would encourage you to have Unimate liberally throughout the day as you're fasting, and then have the balance before your heaviest meal each day. Now, I'm a bit of a fiber junkie, and I can handle a lot of fiber with no problem because I've warmed myself up to that. But back in the beginning, if I had a couple packets of fiber in the day, I would feel gassy, I would feel bloated, I'd have some discomfort, a little bit of constipation. And so, as many people are warming up to the fiber, we want to encourage them to use the Unimate liberally and the balance before their largest meal each day. Now, once you get used to it, if you wanted to have fiber before every meal because you felt that was helping you, that would be a good idea. And that's personally what I do. I have fiber before every meal, and I usually have 2 to 3 Unimate per day.
Okay.
Great question.
So it's mainly for a personal tolerance of the fiber.
That's
Yeah,
right. That's a big factor.
yeah. Okay,
Yep.
perfect. Thank you. Thank you
Thanks so
so much.
much. Yep. Okay. Holly, I'm inviting you to unmute. Go ahead with your question. Give you a second longer to unmute. Holly, if you're talking, we can't hear you. Okay, Holly, we'll come back to you. Everton's got his hand up. Everton, inviting you to unmute. Go ahead with
Hi,
your.
I have a quick question. Actually, this is my husband's account. My name is Felicia. So, I've been doing the protocol for about 3 months. One thing that I have seen is, I've definitely been able to fast. Normally, I'm ready to eat first thing in the morning, and I'm ready to eat lunch. It definitely has helped me fast. However, I have not lost much weight, but I'm grateful to be able to give my digestive system a break. But I did find out that I have leaky gut and malabsorption. So I don't know if that has anything to do with the weight loss. And then you mentioned prebiotics. What is your recommendation for that?
I'll defer to Lindsay, the pro.
Yeah, there's so many things. So the nice thing about balance is it has both soluble and insoluble fiber. And the way that Robert Lustig, read the book Metabolical if you want more information, talks about it. Soluble fiber acts like a lattice on the inside of your gut. So you have leaky gut, it's providing um, a barrier of sorts against that leaky gut, but then you have the soluble fiber, which forms like a gel. And the gel is actually going to be the thing that is the barrier to the leaky gut. So it's going to help prevent that bacteria leaking through those leaky junctions. The soluble fiber or the insoluble fiber, forgive me, is the prebiotic. It is the food for the probiotics. So you don't need to worry about adding prebiotics if you're taking balance on a regular basis.
Excellent question. Thanks so much. All right, we have a couple more questions here, and then we got to wrap up the call. Thank you, Lindsay, for being so generous with your time. Jael Thompson, I'm inviting you to unmute. Come on through and ask your question, Jael, if you can come off mute.
Hi, thank you for taking my question, Trent. My question is about, I hear people saying you want to sip through the Unamate throughout the day or throughout between, the time you wake up and then the time you go to eat lunch. But is it okay just to drink it and just doesn't that do the same thing, like allow you to just not eat? Oh, well, no, allows you to bring down the noise about eating. That's what I meant, not eat.
I
Or
actually
allow
love
you to fast.
I love the way you said that. It reduces the noise, the food noise, the like interest in food. It like disappears, right? So if you find that you can chug it and be done with it, and the food noise goes away, and that food noise is gone for good during a long stretch of time, then go for it. Yeah, I mean, I just have found personally that if I sip it every 5 to 10 minutes, it just gives me something to kind of keep my taste buds satisfied. And I like to stagger the benefit over time, but no requirement there. No requirement
Okay.
there.
And then just really quick, you did say like you could mix it up. You could do 2 Unamate and 1 balance, or if your gut allows it, do balance between each meal and then 1 Unamate. You can just kind of see what fits with your body. Is that what I'm understanding?
Yeah, in a perfect world, I think we'd probably all want to do a couple Unamate per day and a couple balance. But of course, there's the cost sensitivity for some people. And so, if as a good place to start, 2 Unamate, 1 balance, balance before your heaviest meal is a good idea. I don't know. My hand signals are triggering different effects here. But yeah. So either way, whatever suits you better is appropriate there.
Okay, cool. Thank you so much.
Yep. Okay, a few more and then we'll wrap up. Lori Davis, go ahead.
Hi, thank you so much. I am one of the first people to take a first generation GLP-1. I didn't know better. I've taken it from 2008 to 2024, so 16 years. I did have short periods in between there where I would have a break. Like, for example, I'd be off of it for 3 months or off of it for 6 months. And despite having clean eating, healthy habits, exercising,
Did everybody get chicken?
Sorry. Go ahead, Lori.
despite doing those things, I would regain the weight. So then I would go back on the GLP-1. However, after 16 years, it just completely stopped working. Coincidentally, I found unicity at the same time. I've been on it for 4.5 months, not taking the GLP-1. Definitely tons of good side effects that I already put in the chat, but I'm not having any weight loss. So my frustration is, number one, that it's been 4.5 months. And I do know I have a lot to repair from the damage caused by the GLP-1. So just any thoughts on that?
Lindsay.
This is a fascinating topic that I don't think we know the answer to. I've asked Ben Bickman, does GLP-1 have a negative feedback loop like every other hormone in the body? Testosterone, thyroid, estrogen, all of those have a negative feedback loop. Does GLP-1? And he says, we don't know. So the question is did giving an exogenous artificial GLP-1 shut down your ability to produce your own? And so my guess is yes, it's a complete guess. But the thing that we do in situations like testosterone is give testosterone boosters. And it takes time to build that ability back up. So my encouragement would be to stick with it. Flex your fasting muscle. I think that's probably the most powerful tool to overcoming a plateau. And then stay as low carb as you can, because that helps boost all kinds of things. And like we just said tonight, more plants, more variety,
Right.
keep those
I've been
things
I've been pretty consistent with that. But what I found, I'm also incorporating fasting like a girl, Dr. Mindy Pelz. And even though I'm perimenopause, I'm 48, I've had 28-day cycles for for decades. I've completely stopped having periods. So I don't know if something is just completely wackadoo with my hormones. And I just don't know. I'm going to keep going, but I'm just, I don't know.
You should come see me.
Okay. Do you accept virtual? I'm in Louisville, Kentucky. Yeah.
Absolutely. Go venintegrativemedicine.com. Come find me. I'm right up your alley.
Okay.
And because Lindsay won't do this, I would plug that if anybody if you don't have blood work, if you need blood work, if you need a second opinion on your blood work, I mean, this is what she does, and she's great for that. Okay, we're gonna have time for one more question. Holly, I'm gonna invite you to unmute one more time, and if you cannot come off mute, then we'll go to the next hand that is up here. Holly, are you there? Going once, going twice. Sold. Andrew Betts. If Andrew Betts cannot unmute, the next one is Quinn Ohana. Okay, Andrew, go ahead.
Okay. Yes, I have a potential customer that's stage 3 to beginning stages of 4 kidney failure. Do y'all have anybody that's that way that's on the system, and has it helped them or does it hurt them?
So let me just say that for serious medical conditions, in fact, any specific medical conditions, we have to decline really commenting. I mean, I would hate to do anything or say anything that would put a friend of yours into jeopardy. So they should just grab the PDR, grab the nutrition facts, go to their doctor, ask their doctor. I could provide you with some anecdotal stuff, but I wouldn't feel we're not their doctor. I'm not a doctor, let alone their
Yeah, I
doctor.
understand. I didn't know if y'all had any customers that.
Thank you, Andrew. Sorry I can't give you a better answer, brother. Holly, if you want to put your question in the chat, go ahead. That was a quick and easy question. So Holly, if you want to put your question in the chat, I saw you said it won't let you unmute. And while I would love to stay here, I also don't want to wear out my welcome with Lindsay Venn. And so we will, Holly, we're not getting any questions from you in the chat. We will go ahead and close this call. Guys, every single week we do this. We do this because and I'm not exaggerating, we're going to change the world. If you need proof, go look in the chat. Did you hear those stories of people that are on the protocol? If you use this protocol properly and are consistent, it will work for you. If you know somebody, if you love somebody who is struggling with their mental health, their metabolic health, fiber and fasting, it may be just that simple. Invite them to this call next week. They will thank you later. We love you guys. Thanks for being part of this movement, and we'll see you next week.